Hello and welcome to my Flosstube. My name is Carmen. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you to everyone who is returning, who's coming back, as well as any new people who might be stumbling by. So this is my Flosstube. I'm going to be talking about my stitching today, as well as some knitting. I'm going to be talking about, oh yes, I have a giveaway for those of you who entered the giveaway last time for this amazing Idee book full of wonderful patterns, notably the GH 1857 sampler. You'll have to stick around till near the end of the video when I plan on announcing that winner. But yes, I'll be also sharing my plans in this video and just, giving a little bit of a catch up. And because I'm covering many topics, I do want to mention right at the start of the video, I always put chapters in my video, so if you want to skip around if something's not as interesting to you, or you just really want to get to the fun part or whatever it might be, I spend a lot of time making chapters so that it's easy to jump around and just watch the parts that are interesting to you, because these videos can go for a while. I am very aware of that. I also spend quite a lot of time working on my description for my video, like say half of my editing time is also spent just making sure my description includes everything that I mention in the video. And these are not like affiliate links or anything. I'm not making any money off of it. I'm just trying to like create a sort of a little catalog of anything that I mention. If there happens to be some kind of record of it online, then I like to link that in my description. So with all of that, I am gonna start. Thank you for your patience. I know it's been a minute yet again. I have the best of intentions to make videos on a consistent basis, but I need to like incorporate it into my everyday routine. I'm really impressed by people like Elizabeth Ann can stitch, because she's like pretty much every week posting something, and I just don't know how she does it. But I want to be like that. I want to be like Liz. Anyways, we're just going to get into it. And actually the first thing that I'm going to talk about is something that I don't have to show you, but I did film a clip that I will insert in just a second. But yeah, I finished my very first model stitch for Evertote, the Prudence Love and Toil sampler, which was a reproduction sampler of a girl called Sarah Allden by 1897 Schoolhouse Samplers, and it was a full Roxy Floss conversion and kit, and I worked on it for a couple of months, and then I sent it in the mail, and I had some really good feedback over how to safely package it and send it in the mail, so I thought I would just, film that whole process. Maybe it would be interesting or useful to somebody. So since I don't actually have that big finish to show you in person anymore because it got sent in the mail, I'm gonna hand things off to Carmen from about a week and a half ago. I did film a clip, so I'll insert that right here. So I have finished the model stitch for Evertote. This is Prudence, Love and Toil by 1897 Schoolhouse Samplers, also known as Leanne, and this is the full conversion to Roxy Floss on biscuit, 40 count biscuit linen that is sold at Evertote, and I was very lucky to be asked to stitch this model, and I have finished it probably almost a month ago now, and I just haven't been on top of things, so I haven't mailed it yet. And it is time that it goes out in the mail, because actually I heard that Canada Post is probably going to go on strike soon. So I would like to get this out before then, because then who knows how long it'll take to get to them. Anyways, I have shown this before, but since this is going to be the last time that you see it, I might as well show you a couple of close-ups, because after this, it'll be done. So I love the border on this. The border is definitely my favorite part. You use every single color almost in just the border. This carnation, oh my goodness, it was quite hard to do the counting of that. I don't think there are counting mistakes, but no guarantees. I saved it for the end. These flowers on the bottom, that was the part I was really looking forward to. I also really enjoyed stitching this band there. And yeah, there's quite a fair bit of overwon this entire versus an over one. I am quite happy with how I did that. Just a little secret between you and me. Nobody tell Caroline. One of these words is off by one linen thread. Shh. Anyways, I'm sure it's fine. I decided I was gonna leave it. And yes, there's a little bit more over one on the bottom here. Her name, as well as this bird, the branches off of that perch that it's on. Yeah, so a really lively, springtimey color palette and just the most amazing border of all time. Oh, and I'll show you the satin stitch. I think that's called a sawtooth pattern. The little zigzaggy half triangle things on the top. Yeah, so it's time for me to bid farewell to my friend Sarah, and she's gonna go to her forever home in London, Ontario. Okay, so when I first reached out to Caroline, I asked her if there was like a specific way to mail this, and I asked if I could just sort of, fold it up, put it in a plastic bag, tape it shut, put it in some kind of a mailer and send it that way, and she replied to me and said that that would be fine. But then when I posted it on Instagram, 2 people reached out to me, both the designer, Leanne, as well as a lovely Instagram follower called Elise, and they gave me some tips that were actually very similar to one another on how they mail things. And, Caroline did say I could just chuck it in a mailer, but I figured I might as well go the whole 9 yards and really make sure that this is tucked very safely in its mailer. So I figured I would film that because maybe it'll be interesting for somebody in the future. Okay, so Leanne said that I should make like a tube out of bubble wrap. I don't have any bubble wrap. Elise told me to use like paper towel rolls. Thing is, it takes me like 1.5 years to get through a roll of paper towel. I like barely ever use any of it. So I don't have either of those things. What I do have is a massive stash of craft paper. I don't know why I keep this stuff around, but I have so much of it and it has come in handy so many times. So I've just made a tube of craft paper here, and I figured this will be kind of like the equivalent of the toilet paper roll or the paper towel roll. That's what I've decided. So I'm just gonna tape this shut. And Elise said that with the paper towel roll that I should wrap it in saran wrap. That I do have, or cling wrap, however you call it. This is another thing that takes me like 3 years to get through an entire roll of this stuff. And I guess this is just like in case it gets wet, that the paper doesn't come into contact with the fabric. So I'm gonna wrap this up. Okay, so I have my little makeshift tube covered in plastic. This is kind of a weird craft to be doing. So now I will start with the side that has less of a selvage edge so that the selvage extra on the bottom can be the extra protection. And I've decided to have the back side on the outside just in case something happens. I guess I'd rather the back get stained than the front. However, if something happens where this is getting stained, I feel like it's not gonna make much of a difference. But yeah, here's my little tube. And then both of them, both Elise and Leanne, suggested to, then pack this in some plastic bags. And that is another thing that I hoard, plastic bags. I have like 300 of these that I've accumulated over the years, and I never have any reasons to use them, and today I do. So I'm gonna do that now. So I thought of like wrapping tape all around this, but I'm worried about accessing it afterwards. Like I would hate for them to have to use scissors and then accidentally cut the sampler. So I am going to just secure this with a couple of pieces of tape, and I hope that would be enough. Really what I'm trying to do here is protect it from water damage. I figure if it gets wrinkled or something, it's not an antique, so I don't think it's that delicate. I just wouldn't want it to get soaking wet. Okay, so I've just used 4 little pieces of tape here. I feel like that should probably be enough. I'm not trying to make it, you know, bulletproof. I just want it to be pretty much sealed. And then I have been instructed by both Elise and Leanne to put it in one of these cardboard mailers. I have an absurd number of these in my house. I used to sell and mail, lino cut art prints in a previous life. And this is how I would mail the big ones. And I never had any problem with water damage just getting through this cardboard. It's like, yes, it's paper. If you dunked it underwater for a long time, it would, you know, get wet on the inside. But this stuff is actually very, very sturdy, and I trust it a lot. So I'll slip that in here. So because of all of my packing, there's actually not all that much extra room. Back when I was selling art prints, I would kind of stuff craft paper in the gaps to make sure that, you know, things weren't rattling around, but it actually fits in here kind of perfectly. And I have already sealed one side, so I'll seal the other side off of camera. But this is the one place where I do use the masking tape to really make sure that this is watertight. So I will do that on the other side, and then, you know, put everybody's address, and that'll be that. And there she goes. Okay, so I actually have a second thing that I really need to mail. So I was part of a Smalls exchange, Canada Smalls, organized by 2 bay stitchers, as well as Karen, the stitching owl. And I was supposed to mail this on like Labor Day weekend. So obviously I'm really behind. I did mail it. It came back to me. And then I'm not gonna lie, I kind of just forgot about it. But anyways, might as well show it now as I am mailing something else again. So this is, well, it's 2 different designs, both by Max Pigeon of Pigeon Coop Designs. This is the Festive Cardinal, and this is the Jolly Squirrel. And these were both available as PDF purchases on his website. And there was a little bit of a misunderstanding. I thought I had like missed the deadline to sign up for this exchange. And then I realized that I got something in the mail from somebody else, and I was like, oh no, I really need to work on this quickly. So I did stitch it in a scramble, which in the end didn't matter because here I am 2 months late in mailing it to my recipient. Anyways, better late than never, I guess. So I stitched this with almost all of the called for DMC. I had almost all of it in stash, which was great. I think I made a couple of substitutions on the cardinal. I think the beak colors might be different. And I sort of figured out how to make one of these flat ornaments. I used an old Rice Krispies box and like cut circles out and taped them together to make them, you know, sturdier. And then I sewed this stuff to the edge, as well as a twine hanging thing. I don't know if this is like the most professionally done finish, but I think I did an okay job. And I think this is a really beautiful ornament, and I really hope that my recipient is not super sad and disappointed that I was super slow to mail it to them. Anyway, so I'm gonna show you how I mailed it the first time. Here's everything. Oh, I'm also throwing in a little knit sock as a bonus / sorry I'm so late. So for this, a little bit less complicated. I just have it in a little sandwich bag in case it gets wet again. And this is less complicated, so I'm just gonna close this up. So into these rigid paper mailers that I also have a ton of because of my art print days, slide that into there along with my I'm sorry I'm so late note. It's kind of embarrassing. Anyways. And then I will again use masking tape to ensure that that is really, really well sealed. And again, I never had any problem with my art prints getting wet, so I think it should be okay. So those are my 2 little mailed pieces of cross stitch that I will be sending in the mail right away. Sorry again to everybody who's been waiting for my stuff. Sometimes I'm just not on top of things, but I'm doing it now. I'm trying my best. And hopefully they make them to their intended recipients in a timely manner. And with that, I will pass things on to Carmen, who is filming a regular Flosstube. Bye-bye. So welcome back to present day. I am very sad to inform you that the day after I sent that in the mail, Canada Post went on strike. So what was supposed to take 3 or 4 business days to get to Caroline in London, Ontario, is gonna take however long it takes for the strike to end. And honestly, I'm pretty bummed. In hindsight, I kind of wish I had, what I really wish is that I had sent it in the mail sooner and been, you know, on top of it, and then this wouldn't have been an issue at all. However, the other alternative would have maybe been to just hold on to it for a little bit longer and wait for the strike to end and then mail it. But I really wanted to like get ahead of the strike, and in the end, I think I fell right into the pit of the strike. So both of those items are hopefully going to arrive to their intended recipients at some point, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. I don't know. I've been Googling it every day, and it doesn't look like a whole bunch of progress is being made in those negotiations. So I don't know. It's a bummer. Hello again. Sorry, this video is gonna be jumping all over the place because I filmed it over the course of like 4 different days. Today is December 13th. I'm currently editing this video, really hoping to have it up tomorrow. Anyways, I thought I'd pop in to just give you a little update on the Canada Post strike. They went on strike on November 15th. It is currently December 13th, and they are still on strike. So I have very little hope that either of those packages are going to arrive by the end of 2024. Strikes are important. I don't know all of the ins and outs of what's going on over there, so I probably shouldn't, you know, speak on it too much. But I do just want to acknowledge that the strike has really hurt a lot of small businesses, and a lot of people really, really rely on Canada Post. I use Canada Post all the time. Anyways, I hope that it gets resolved as soon as it can, and that everybody is happy with the results, and hopefully the people that have been relying on that service can get back to using it, including me. Okay, back to the video. Okay, so I did mention and show in that video another small that I also put in the mail, which is also who knows where right now. But I would like to talk about that smalls exchange. So Karen, the stitching owl, reached out to me like back in the spring or the summer, asking if I wanted to participate in this smalls exchange. I was super happy to do that. And then I just misread some emails. It was totally my fault, and I thought that I had like missed the deadline to participate, so I kind of was like, oh shucks, maybe she'll do it again and I can participate next time. So I just sort of forgot about it, and then I got a surprise package in the mail, which was lovely to receive, but also a little concerning because I thought I wasn't gonna participate in this. Anyways, but I am going to show you now what I received in the mail. And this is from Joanne, who is the Canada Stitcher on Instagram, and she stitched and finished this, which Canadian Thanksgiving happened a good month ago. I mean, I got this in the mail like end of August, so it's been a while since I've done a Flosstube. I'm kind of behind. Anyways, this is what she stitched. It's 1/1 on 25 count. Look at that pumpkin. Look at all those teeny tiny little stitches. And this is, let me see, it's Lindsay at T. Lee Designs, who is from Nova Scotia, and it is done on 25 count light taupe 1/1 with hand-dyed floss. So I am mesmerized by this. That is so small, so small, and that pumpkin is really the star of the show there. And she also had it in this nice towel, which now I can use. However, fancy towels, I don't want to use a fancy towel. It's too nice. It's okay. I'll just have it, you know, as decoration or something. So she sent me that, which was very nice, but it did also freak me out because I was like, oh no, who am I supposed to send something to? And so then I went back to the emails and I realized that I had actually been given a name and an address to somebody. So that's when I had stitched that small that I showed. I did it really quickly and I actually met the deadline. Joanne was just like really ahead of schedule. I got this like weeks before the deadline. So she was on top of things. I was not. Anyways, and then I took a little while to send it in the mail, and then I think I wrote Joanne's postal code or something on it. Anyway, it came back in the mail, and then I had to send it again, and now it's stuck in the mail because of the strike. So I'm very, very sorry to my recipient. Maybe I am not the most reliable person for things with deadlines. So I'm so sorry. It's like very embarrassing. Anyways, it's in the mail now. Hopefully it doesn't get lost. I'll put this up here. Oh, it's gonna get swallowed up behind my couch. Ooh, I didn't even mention, I have a special guest with me here today. I will be talking about this lovely young man a little bit later in the video, but I just wanted him to be on display the whole time because I love him so much. And yes, I did make him. Okay, he's just gonna go back to his nap. I'll stop bothering him. And yes, okay. All right, moving on. Oh yes, so I have one other big-ish finish. It's definitely not as big as the first sampler that I finished, but it is a sampler and I did finish it and I am here to show it to you. So this is Strawberry Manor by Teresa Kogut. This was stitched on 40 count. It's either parchment or wheat. I will check and I'll put it on screen. I think it might be wheat by Fiber on a Whim, but it could be parchment. And the floss is a conversion that I made to Roxy Floss, and I'm very happy to share this with anybody. I really enjoy making conversions. I've said that before, but I really like it because I feel like I get to put my own little spin on things. And I mean, I didn't change anything too dramatically, but I did choose to liven up the colors a little bit, especially in the reds. I bought a few different reds that I wanted to compare. The two reds that I went for were, the darker one is, hold on, I'll hide my face so it actually focuses. The darker one is Falu Red, and the lighter one is 11 points more. And it was really 11 points more that I had like a very specific thing in mind. I wanted a bright, bright red that was not pink. That was not a magenta, but still very, very bright. And so it's like almost neon. But yeah, this is something I'm very, very happy with. And this was supposed to be my summer project. I'm filming this on the 26th of November. So this is how like behind schedule I am in my updating Flosstube. Oops. Can you tell I'm not a very on top of it person sometimes? Sometimes I have a bit of like decision paralysis and yeah, anyways, I'm gonna stop making excuses and try to be a more responsible adult. Anyways, that's that. I did make a couple of sort of changes in the conversion where sometimes a color doesn't apply to every time that symbol appears, and I'll explain it to anybody who asks. But basically, like these two greens in the corner are supposed to be like in this leaf. These three greens don't all look nice next to each other, so there are times where I swap one of them out. And the other big change that I did is in the house, it's supposed to be the bright red color, and then the deeper red is supposed to be just the trim around the door, but I traded them. But other than that, it's a pretty simple conversion. And I finished it, and then I went out onto my balcony and I took some pictures and I did a little photo shoot, and it actually started snowing as I was doing that, and it felt like Mother Nature just rubbing it in that it took me much longer to finish this than expected, because I was kind of thinking this would be done by the end of like, I don't know, July, maybe August. Yeah, that didn't happen. Anyways, I love this. I really enjoyed stitching it. Teresa Kogut has a very unique voice as a designer. I really like how filled in everything is. She really fills in all of those gaps, and it always feels very like structured and strong. Anyway, so that's the other big finish I have that I actually still have here to show. So I'll put her on display here. There she is. Okay, next is my one and only cross-stitch whip. You heard that right, folks. I am now down to one whip. So if you will, this is the world's shortest whip parade. One item. Okay, so it's still in the frame. I'll take it out in a second. This is my AKGIT 1833 by Modern Folk Embroidery. I've been working on this for over a year. However, I did put it down for about a year. I did more than half of it last year over the course of maybe 3 months, and then I picked it up after I finished some of those other projects. So I'm right now on the row of diamonds, which is probably the easiest row to work on. They are the most, counting wise, it's the easiest. And I'm on the very last, I'm on the very last diamond now. So I have that diamond to do, and then there's a couple little doodads around there, and then I'd say I'm like a good 2/3 way through this sampler. So I'm gonna take it out of the frame now so that you can see everything I've done. So as you can see, my linen is too big for this frame, but I didn't want to use an even bigger frame. So it does, I mean, I just sort of folded it. It's definitely gonna make a big kink in my linen, but it does work. So I'm just going with it. Maybe this is not the most highly recommended way of doing it, but it's working for me, so I'm just gonna go for it. So here's what I have left, here's what I have stitched already. Under this, maybe I'll pop on screen a model of the whole thing finished, but yes. Beyond this, there is a row of trees under here, similar to these ones up here, but they're much smaller. And then under that, there's another row of these medallions, but again, much smaller. So there's 2 more rows underneath, but they are smaller than things that I've already done. There she is. Maybe I can give you a couple of close-ups. It's kind of hard to navigate this thing, but this is the first time I'm actually filming a Flosstube in the evening. So the lighting is probably not the best, but also I live on kind of a busy street, and it was snowing today, which is super fun and exciting. I love snow, but I know from having edited these videos before that you will be able to hear all of the cars going by because the streets are wet, and unfortunately there's nothing I can do about that except maybe buy a microphone or a better camera. I don't know. We'll see. But for now, this is what we're working with. So there she is, AKGIT by Modern Folk Embroidery, and I went to Jacobpalooza last year, which was a retreat hosted by Evertote, and Jacob of Modern Folk Embroidery was the, designer that was featured there. And I really wanted to stitch the name of the girl on the gear while I was there. So I'm happy that I know those stitches were stitched when the designer was in the room. I also worked on some of these. Anyways, so you can tell that I put this down not too long after that. And yeah. And it feels really good to have just one whip. However, that's not going to be the case for much longer because I have a start planned for December 1st. I don't want to put pressure on myself to have a deadline for when I should have this finished. There's a part of me that wants to finish it by the end of 2024, but I think I just need to finish it when I am able to. And I started knitting this year. If you've watched my videos, you'll know that I started knitting this year, and that has taken up a lot of my time, and I have mixed feelings about that because I've really enjoyed knitting, but it's really eaten into my stitching time. I definitely did a lot more stitching in 2023 than I did in 2024. I still did quite a bit of stitching in 2024, so it's not like I abandoned it completely, but it's, yeah, I don't know. My time has been split. Anyways, whatever, we'll move on. So that's my one cross stitch whip and the world's shortest whip parade. So I hope you enjoyed my whip parade. And now I'm gonna move on to the next thing. Okay, so still on the subject of cross stitch and Jacob and everything that I've already been talking about, I am going to sort of transition into knitting now by talking about the sampler September socks that I worked on. So if you don't know, Evertote has hosted now for, I think this is the second year, in September, stitch along of one of Ellen's designs, original designs, and this year also a reproduction, Ellen of Maximum Power Hour, and they will collaborate also with a Ontario yarn dyer called Timber Yarns to make a striped sock yarn so that you can also knit a pair of socks that have a color palette that reflects the sampler that Ellen made. So it's like a big conglomeration of people who are coming together to make pretty things with nice colors. So I thought about doing Ellen's sampler, but I felt like I had enough on my plate. So I ended up deciding to knit the socks that went with her original design. And here they are. So, I think the colorway was called Sampler Stripetember, and then the contrast is called Vanilla, and this is by Timber Yarns. And the pattern I chose is called, what's it called? Chevron Chase, and I forget the designer, which is embarrassing, but I'll have it on screen. And it is a free pattern offered by Biscotte Yarns, which is a Quebec yarn store, and they also have their own line of hand-dyed yarns. Anyways, but it creates a little bit of a chevron. And I know that there are a couple of patterns that do something similar. A really popular one is by the Crazy Sock Lady. I think it's called Heel Toe Do-Si Do. It's a little different, but it also creates a chevron. And I really enjoyed knitting striped, self-striping yarn. It is the first time that I have done that. And it's true, like it's very potato chippy, like you want to get to the next stripe. So I finished these really quickly. I think the pattern tells you to do an afterthought heel, but I didn't. I just did heel tone gusset, and I did an Eye of Partridge heel, which is a kind of reinforced heel, but it has this fun texture. And yeah, at first I did a shadow wrap heel, but my instep is not crazy high, but it's a little high, and it was just really tight. So I ended up taking it out and doing my regular heel flap and gusset. So that is my first pair of sampler socks. The second pair of sampler socks was something I kind of came up with on my own. So again, Jacob of Modern Folk Embroidery earlier this year came out with a really cool reproduction sampler called Hold On To Your Socks. And it's a sampler where there are like sock embroidery designs on it. So it's basically all of these motifs that you see on the sampler, which I will have on screen, are supposed to be like knit into a pair of socks, which I think is just so cool and also screams my name because I love samplers and I also really love knitting socks. So I decided to make a second pair of sampler socks. I just did something simple, just on the cuff, and I will have on screen circled the motif that I chose. I did have a bit of an issue with this. This was like my second time doing color work, and I'm just not very experienced with it. So usually I cast on 64 stitches. This repeat is a multiple of 16. So it worked on 64 stitches. However, because it's a lot less stretchy, I couldn't get it over my heels. So then I ended up, after the cuff, increasing by 16 stitches so that I could repeat it 5 times. So it does fit. However, it's like it flares out a little bit. So I think an extra 8 stitches might be more appropriate for me. Anyways, it was a bit of an experiment. I also didn't use a pattern for this, so I have now knit enough socks that I can just freestyle a sock. And as you can see, I lost a game of yarn chicken because on my second sock, I did not have enough yarn for the toe. I just got one 50-gram ball, and the yardage on this yarn, it's Sisu by Sandnes Garn. It's a little bit of a thicker yarn, so 50 grams gives you less yardage. And yeah, not quite enough. I think if my leg were just a cuff, like if I didn't do the color work, I probably would have been able to get a pair of shorty socks out of that yarn, but Oops. Anyway, so definitely a lot of experimentation happened with these socks, and these socks are just perfect. No complaints here. However, I did make a third pair of socks, and actually I'm wearing them, so I'll take one off to show you. I'm not going to show my foot because that costs extra. Anyways, I had quite a bit of extra yarn, so I decided to just knit a pair of vanilla socks with my leftover yarn, and it has a much shorter leg because I didn't have quite enough to make a long leg, and I had just enough contrast to do just the cuff. So I used a different yarn that I had for the toe and the heel, and for the first time ever I did a heel flap and gusset, but I didn't do any reinforced knitting because I want these socks to be a bit of an experiment to see if I really need to do reinforced stitching on the heel, because usually when my socks wear out, they wear out like on the bottom or here. Anyways, so I just want to make a point of wearing these socks a lot because I want to wear them out, because I just want to see how much I can put them through. So I'm not as, emotionally attached to these socks because these are the perfect socks. This is just the leftover yarn. However, it's fun. I did get 2 pairs of socks out of that yarn. So I'm gonna put it back on now so I don't get a cold foot. Okay, so now I'm gonna kind of speed run all of the knitting that I've done over the last couple of months. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning, if you're not really interested in knitting, I will have timestamps because there is more cross-stitching later, so you can skip ahead. However, I don't plan to spend too much time on this. So, I have mentioned this a couple of times, but I'm currently working on kind of a massive mega project where I have made the very silly decision to knit all 52 pairs of socks in this book, 52 Weeks of Socks by Len Publishing. And these are not vanilla sock patterns. These are complicated. They are really over the top. Sometimes they make me want to rip my hair out, but they do yield, in general, extremely gorgeous, like pieces of art that are in the form of socks. So I don't want to talk too much about these socks because I do have a lot of footage that I'm gonna have to edit. Oh my god, it's gonna be a nightmare. Anyways, I am almost done the first quarter of this book, which by the way has taken me almost a year. So at this rate, it's gonna be 4 years by the time I'm done this challenge. So anyways, I don't wanna think about that too much. The first pair of socks that I have never shown on YouTube, hold on, what are they called? I forget. Oh yes, the Lempi socks. Here they are. This had some color work in them, as you can see. This is probably the most successful color work experience that I've had so far. Yes, so I do cast on 72 stitches here. So if you remember the last one I was talking about, I had 16 additional stitches. Well, this is 8 additional stitches, and it's perfect. However, this is not very complicated color work. I never had to really catch my floats or anything. Anyways, I really like the color work chart on this. Not crazy about the cuff. It's kind of floppy and a little bit too loose because 72 stitches is kind of too much for me. And also there's kind of a textured pattern on the foot, which maybe just gets lost a little bit in this yarn, but anyway, I made them. This was pattern number 10 in the book. Okay, should I put these up here too so we have more nice things to look at? Sure, why not? They're clean so they can touch my sampler, okay? I cleaned them. I haven't worn any of these yet. Maybe I should put these up too. Okay, the next pair of socks from this book are called the Morning Coffee Socks. These were some toe-up socks. I had to buy a mini skein set for this because you use 5 different colors of yarn and it goes in a fade and you're using 2 yarns at a time. And it has this really fun stitch pattern that is super stretchy. So actually, yeah, for anybody who might want to knit these, and if you're in between sizes, I would go with the smaller size because these are very, very stretchy socks. I actually had to start these over, which was the first and only time that I've ever had to start a knitting project over completely. Anyways, so they weren't like the most fun to knit, but they are like really cozy and squishy and soft. So I am sort of tempted to maybe make these again, but like maybe just in 1 yarn color, just to sort of simplify my life a little bit. But yeah, so these are the Morning Coffee Socks. and I kind of call them my morning matcha latte socks because I don't drink coffee, and these are sort of green. They're more blue. I don't know. They look more green in person. They look more blue on camera. My boyfriend says they're blue. I say they're green. Whatever. They're socks is what they are. And now they are going on my couch. Hello, I'm back editing Carmen. I just quickly wanted to mention that I am knitting the morning coffee socks for a second time. I have a family member who's been quite sick and has very swollen feet at the moment, and it was requested that I knit a pair of socks. So I decided to make this pattern again because this is a really, really stretchy fabric that it yields. It's stretchier than any ribbing than I've ever done. So I feel like for this kind of a scenario where, you know, the size of the feet might be shrinking and growing, this stitch pattern actually works out pretty well. Other than the stitch pattern though, I am just using my own formula. Those socks were toe up, these I'm doing cuff down. I'm gonna do a different heel. It's a different pattern in every other sense, but that stitch pattern, which creates this really fun spongy texture, is really nice and stretchy. So yeah, I hope they fit. And then the next and only other completed pair of socks that I have to show you from this book is the linea socks. And I love these. It's a beautiful cabled chart. I also love the yarn I used. They are toe up, which is not my preferred method. However, these are so pretty that I have forgiven the pattern for being toe up because look at that. Look at these beautiful socks. This is like one of my top 3 pairs of socks that I've made this year. And I have made almost 30 pairs of socks this year. And most of those pairs are not vanilla socks. Like I mostly am using patterns, and I've made some real complicated things this year. Okay, so here, you're gonna go here. And the very last pair of socks in this quarter, which is where I'm gonna stop for now in the knitting in this book until I, edit and upload those videos, is the heartichoke sock. I only have one of them completed. I have maybe close to half done on the second sock, but I'll just show you the completed and blocked one for now. This is the heartichoke sock. Again, toe up, like all of the toe up patterns seem to be in a row in this book. And this is actually a lace pattern, but it looks like cabling. But anyways, yeah, I used kind of a busy, funky yarn, so you don't see the pattern as well. But the pattern is called heartichoke, and the yarn is called Another Artichoke, so it felt kind of meant to be. So that is why I chose that yarn. I do think it's really pretty, even though it's a little bit muddled in there. And I really like the color pooling. Anyway, so that is the last pair of socks from this book. I do have a couple more to show you though. I am very quickly running out of space. I was all excited about self-striping yarn after the sampler stripetember, so then I went on a bit of a self-striping yarn rampage online, and I found another dyer. They're in Eastern Canada somewhere. I forget what province they're in. Anyways, but they are called Turtle Pearl Yarn Co. And I got these. This was called Gothic Plum, the colorway. And this was my first freestyled pattern toe up with a heel flap and gusset. So I'm really proud of myself that I was able to figure that out. Of course, I knit these, and then in the book there were all these heel flap and gusset toe up socks that I ended up knitting. So I was like, why did I spend all of that time like inventing this heel, and then literally got the answer written in the book for me? Anyways, whatever. I'm proud of myself for having figured it out myself. And as somebody who's been knitting for less than a year, I'm proud of myself. It was not easy. Anyways, so it's mostly a ribbed sock. But yeah, it's not like a very complicated pattern, but it was complicated to come up with it for me anyways. So that's that. And these actually have not been washed. I have worn these, so I'm showing you dirty socks right now, which is kind of gross. So I will not be putting those on my samplers. Okay, now I'm gonna get into gift knits. All right. The first thing is my last pair of socks to show you. These are gonna be for my sister's boyfriend. I don't have sock blockers that are this big, so they are not blocked. I wanted to make him a pair of socks that were DK weight because I figured if the fit was not right, I didn't want him to have a disappointing pair of socks that he couldn't wear. And I feel like DK weight socks are usually worn around the house anyways, so the stakes are lower. And I also really wanted a ribbed sock because I feel like that's a lot more forgiving. So I did some Googling, some Ravelry deep diving, and I found Summer Lee's Thicksgiving sock set, and it is a set of 3 DK weight sock patterns. One of them is kind of just like a vanilla DK weight pattern. One of them has a cable on it, and the other one, which is the one I made, is a ribbed sock. So a while ago, I texted my sister and I asked her, I was like, hey, don't ask me any questions as to why I'm asking you this, but what's your boyfriend's foot size? She was like, 10.5, why? And then I was like, this conversation never happened. And I have not mentioned it to her since. So hopefully she's forgotten, because this was in the summer when I asked her that, so I'm sure she'll have forgotten by now. And I have a colleague whose foot size is 10.5, and I asked him to try them on, and they fit him perfectly. So I have high hopes that they will work for my sister's boyfriend. So these are the ribbed socks from Summer Lee's Thicksgiving sock set. And I mean, they're way too big for me, but when I try them on, they're like super spongy and squishy, and I kind of want a set for myself, and they're so fast to knit. I can knit a vanilla sock in a day in my size. I think I could knit a vanilla DK weight pair of socks in a day in my size. I think I would be spending the whole day knitting, but I think I could do it. I think I could. This fell. Anyway. Okay, so the next thing is I made 3 more musselburgh hats. I talked about this in my last video. It's a very popular hat formula. I had talked about wanting to use a skein of yarn that I didn't buy it twice, but I just bought 2 skeins from different dyers that ended up being very, very similar. So instead of making 2 pairs of socks that are kind of identical, I decided to use one of those and make another musselburgh hat for myself. So this is Biscuit yarn. So again, the same store that sold the free pattern for the Chevron chase socks in the color like aconite or aconite. I think it's a mineral or something. Anyways, so the musselburgh hat is kind of genius because you just knit this big tube and then you fold it into itself, and then it ends up being a double layer hat, so it's nice and warm. This was the second hat that I had made, and this one I made for myself, and then you can fold it again to get a nice brim. So that's that hat. And then I made a bright red one, which I also mentioned wanting to maybe make one, which I don't have anymore because I already gave it to him. But that one was for my boyfriend because he used to have a bright red beanie, and I really liked it because I could find him from far away. And I think he told me it was like part of a Halloween costume. He was like, Where's Waldo one year? And then he just kept wearing that hat, and eventually the pom-pom fell off, but he just kept using the hat. Anyways, but then he lost the hat. So then I couldn't find him in a crowd anymore. So I made him another one, and he wears it all the time, and it makes me feel really good. Anyways, so I don't have that to show him. Maybe I took a picture, so I'll put it on screen, but it's the same hat, just in red. And then just yesterday, I finished a 4th musselburgh hat. And this one is for my friend who I will be seeing at work tomorrow. So this will be off to my friend and colleague tomorrow. And this is also made out of Biscuit yarns. I like their yarns, and they're also local to me, so it feels kind of nice to use their yarn. And the colorway is Patriotic Blue, and this was a color that she chose. So, and it's just so soft. It's so soft. Anyways, it's a really fun project to do. It's easy, doesn't take that much brain power, and most of the knitting is just stockinette in the round. So it's a nice like mindless thing to just have going. I was knitting on it at work. We had a concert, and then after the concert, we, got a beer, and I was just sitting at the bar knitting, and my friends are making fun of me, but joke's on them. I was making a hat and having a great time. Anyways, so those are the hats. And then there was a pair of mittens that I saw on Ravelry that I wanted to make. Ooh, what's it called? The songbird mittens. and it is colorwork extraordinaire, and this is the most complicated colorwork that I've ever done. And I definitely still feel like I have a ways to go with colorwork because there's some puckering. On the first one, I think this was the first one. I didn't catch any of my floats and there was puckering. So then in the second one, I caught my floats and I feel like the puckering is worse. So I don't know. Also, magic loop made it really hard to get a nice edge here. On my second one, it turned out better. Anyways, the back is really pretty. I don't know, this was not a perfect thing. And also, they don't really fit. I have very, very large hands. As a cellist, that is a wonderful thing, having big hands. However, you can see like my fingers are kind of bulging out and it's like a little tight on the thumb here. I feel like this line here is probably supposed to be like more like here where my wrist actually starts and bends. So they're not perfect. I think they are still very nice, and I still think that these are gonna make a really nice gift. So I've decided to gift them, and in a way I feel guilty because I'm like very critical of the things that did not work out perfectly. But I think that if somebody made these for me, I would be thrilled. So I am giving them away to my brother's girlfriend, who I've never met. It's exciting, my little brother has a girlfriend. Anyways, he always has a girlfriend. Anyways, I have never met her. Apparently she's a lovely girl, so hopefully she accepts my not quite perfect mittens. And hopefully her hands are not as enormous as mine are, and they will fit her. And anyways, even if they don't, she can just put them on the wall because they are really pretty. And yes. Oh, and this pattern only has one size. So I am thinking of maybe knitting it again, but like in a sport weight yarn on a slightly larger needle, because it's not really the kind of pattern where you can easily make it bigger because it's wall-to-wall color work, you know? Anyways, but these mittens I still think are absolutely gorgeous, and I love the idea of them, and I have seen many mittens like this, and I had remembered at one point somebody had mentioned this book. So I went out and I bought it, and it's called Selbu Mittens, and just look at that cover photo. Like, hello. That is so beautiful. Look at all those stacks of mittens. I would have so much fun just leafing through all of those. And then the back has like the palm patterns. So pretty. Anyways, this book, I haven't spent too much time with it yet, but it gives you a history of these kinds of mittens. It comes from a region in Norway, and there's a long, knitting traditions there. And it also gives you all sorts of like base patterns as well as colorwork charts. And it's so interesting. Here, I'll just really quickly flash you a page. Anyways, it's so interesting looking at these because it's almost like samplers that I have stitched. It's so much of the same kind of imagery, the same motifs, even samplers that come from different parts of the world. Anyways, I feel like it's the black sampler lover in me also really loves these mittens. Like, are those not incredible? Anyways, so there's over 500 charts in here. There are also like full recipes. There are full patterns in the back. Some of them are, I guess, reproductions of old mittens from 100 years ago that are in a museum somewhere, and some of them are original designs from the local knitters. And there's a whole like different kinds of motifs for men and women. The cuffs are different for men and women. I found that really interesting. The cuffs for men tend to be more like ornate. However, I think the cuffs for women are more practical because they tend to be in ribbing, so they'll actually cinch in at the wrist, which is sort of what I want in mittens. Anyways, I'm enjoying leaping through this and dreaming of all the 500 pairs of mittens that I'm probably not going to knit. Anyways, beautiful book. I think a lot of work probably went into that, and yeah, so I bought that book. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about my special little friend, the beagle. So I'm still in my gift knits section of the video, and it's so hard to know what to give people for Christmas. So I was already planning this like back in the summer, And so I found, and of course, you know, I learned to knit this year. So of course I want to knit everybody everything for Christmas this year. So I made this beagle. It is a pattern by Dot Pebbles Knits. And the designer's name is Claire Garland. I think she's out of the UK, and she has all of these different patterns for different animals, and they're very realistic, some of them, and they're just so, so beautiful. And yeah, so I made the beagle for my brother, and I love him so much. My brother too, I also love my brother, but I love the beagle so much, and I don't want to give him away. He's so nice to squish. And he has safety eyes, so he looks like kind of real. Isn't he cute? I don't want to give him away. I love him so much. Anyways, I bought extra safety eyes because I thought I would maybe want to knit this again for myself. And I do and I don't. It was a lot of work to make this. The pattern was, I think, 77 pages long or something like that. It's complicated. It's full of short rows and picking up stitches, and there's a lot of seaming, and there's all these different colors of yarn. There's like 7 or 8 colors, and you're always holding different ones together, and then you have to embroider on it, which, you know, the stitcher in me did enjoy that part, but not everybody's into that. But the final product is so cuddleable that it definitely is like, it's a labor of love, and it took a lot of work and a lot of concentration, and at no point was able to go on autopilot, but the final product is pretty amazing. I will just say that the pattern, I used pretty much all of the called for everything, but I used the called for the main white color, and it said that I just needed one 50-gram ball of that yarn, but I did run out, and I am frugal with my materials. So all 4 paws are supposed to be white, but my dog has 3 brown paws because I did run out of the white yarn. So if you really want to knit it to pattern, you might want to get a second ball of this main white color. However, when you go on Ravelry and you look at everybody's projects, a lot of people made beagles that looked like their actual dogs, and there are even some who had dogs that passed away, so they made a beagle that looked like their, you know, departed dogs. And, you know, it's sad, but it's also like so beautiful and nice. And anyways, it's a very, very special pattern, very special thing that I made here. One of the hardest things that I've ever made. And it's definitely going to be very hard to say goodbye to you, but you're going to a good home. Anyways, it's going to be fine. Anyways, so that's my brother, but I also have a sister. And at the same time, I bought this other pattern to make a bunny. However, that is not finished, and I'm gonna show you right now something that looks a little bit scary. This is my bunny. He looks a bit like roadkill right now. It's a little disturbing. Like, look at the face. Like, there's no eyes. It looks like the eye is like decomposed. Anyway, sorry. This looks like a Halloween decoration right now, but he will be as cute as his beagle counterpart. The beagle also looked kind of weird when it wasn't finished. Anyways, yeah, so I'm working on the bunny right now. The pattern is half as long, so I'm glad I did the beagle first. It is a lot smaller. I didn't realize like the size difference of these two guys. So hopefully my sister isn't jealous that hers isn't as big as my brother's. The size of my gift to them does not reflect the amount of love I have for them, okay? It's just one is a smaller pattern than the other. Anyways, so I think I'm about halfway done the knitting. There's a lot of seaming together. I'm not hating knitting this, but it's not really what I'm feeling like knitting right now, if I'm honest. But I want to get all of my gift knits out of the way so I can go back to knitting for the person that I actually want to be knitting for, which is me. I've since finished the bunny. It's a little lopsided, but you know what? Nothing in nature is perfectly symmetrical. And you know, she's cute. She's cute. She's kind of floppy, and I like the colors, and you know, I like how it kind of bends in half. And the thing I like the most about it is that it's done. It's finally done, and I don't have to do it anymore bunny or beagle knitting for a while. But yeah, A very pretty pattern, again, a labor of love. And maybe I can find a way to make either both of the ears flop down or this guy stand up, because it is kind of bugging me. All right. Anyways, and then last gift knit, which is a very small, tiny thing, are these guys. I gotta make about a dozen of these. So every year I have knit a little, I have stitched a little ornament for all of the cellists in my section, in my orchestra. And we always do like some kind of a Christmas show at the end of the year, before going on, you know, Christmas break. And it's become a bit of a tradition that they will just hang it on the peg of their cello during the concert. It's very cute. Anyways, but now I've done it for 3 years in a row, so there's like a little bit of an expectation that I keep doing it, which I don't mind. But yeah, I don't think it's optional anymore that I make these little ornaments. Anyway, since 2024 has truly been the year of the sock, and my colleagues have been watching me knit socks on breaks for the whole year, I figured I had to knit a little tiny sock for everybody. Now, I know that Summer Lee has a free sock ornament pattern. I did not use that. This is my own little pattern that I made. I think hers has like a heel flap and gusset or afterthought heel. This is a shadow wrap heel that I have done here. Back again. Okay, I have finished all of my socks. I ended up making 10 of them. I still have to attach twine to all but one. I just really quickly did one. Actually, I need to give these to my colleagues tomorrow afternoon, so I better get on it. I did block these because you end up with a bit of a crease. I mean, the crease is still sort of there, but they're a bit more, I use magic loops, so that's where the crease comes from. Anyways, they take about an hour to do, and I have the pattern on screen right now if you want to screenshot that and do it yourself. Pretty easy, basic little ornament, and a great way to use up some scraps. This uses like 3 or 4 grams of yarn, so you really don't need very much. And I think I used 2.5 millimeter needles. I'm gonna take my sweater off because I'm actually really warm. Okay, I do have one other knitting finish to show you. And actually, I've been showing it to you this whole time because it's the sweater I'm wearing. I made a sweater! I can't believe I made a sweater. I feel like I'm a real knitter now. I'm not just knitting socks. I've graduated to garments. And now that I have shown it to you, I can finally take it off because I'm actually really warm right now. So this is the jean sweater by the designer's name is Joanna Böhme. I think she's German, but it's Colibri Designs. And of course I will have everything linked below. And I was kind of I saw this like trending on the Ravelry Hot Right Now page, and I thought it was really funky and cool. And often when I online shop, I'll like sort of dream shop where I just fill in my carts in a bunch of online places and then I end up not buying anything. However, this time I accidentally hit pay now, and I swear it was an accident. I just wanted to know how much the shipping would be hypothetically. But the website already had my credit card details, so oops, I bought everything I needed for this sweater. Oh no. Anyway, so I got the yarn from, again, Biscuit Yarn. This is their DK Pure base, which is 90% superwash merino and 10% silk. So very fancy. And the colors are, the yellow is called Klimt, and the green is called Green Grows. And I wanted something very autumnal. I'm very happy with my colors. I have gotten so many compliments on this sweater, and I'm not even gonna lie, you know, I go to work and I'm like, do you like my sweater? Like, I am unashamedly fishing for compliments. I am so proud of myself for having made this. Anyways, the only sort of change I made to it is that I did sew an elastic band into the neckline because I blocked it partway through because I didn't know how much the lace was gonna grow. And after I blocked it, like, it grew a lot in the neck. So I got some elastic band and I wove it in there. And so yeah, it's not like hugging my neck really tight, but it's just making sure that it's not like open like this, which is kind of what it was before. So that's the only change I made to it really. But yeah, this is my jean sweater. And it's super funky and cool, and I really like that designer. I have my eye on a few other projects. I kind of thought maybe I'll make like one sweater a year. However, I have bought the yarn and gauge swatch for my second sweater already. Here she is in her entirety. Isn't she fun? I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so there, it's a little bit in frame. So it can still be a part of the video. So last year I did this too, and of course I'm doing it again this year. I did get the charts for the Modern Folk Embroidery Evertote Roxy Floss collaboration, their holiday countdown. And it's a collaboration that the three of them have done for, and this is now the third year. I didn't get the whole box with all of the floss and the linen, so I just got the chart, and I am gonna do what I did last year. So I'm just gonna pull out the holiday countdowns from the last 2 years. So these are the finished mystery sampler doodads from the last 2 years. So this was 2022. You get a little piece of the chart every day. The people who got the whole box also get a different color of floss every day, but I just did my own conversion. And yeah, I've talked about this pretty extensively, so I don't want to be too repetitive, but I did change like the format of this quite a bit. It was originally in two rows. It's the Frisian band sampler. So I changed the order of all of the bands and I stacked them up. And then I did a fun little hem stitch on it. And so I stitched this last year simultaneously with the 2023 holiday countdown because I wasn't stitching yet 2 years ago. So this is the one from 2 years ago that I actually did 1 year ago. And this is the actual holiday countdown from last year. And I think, oops, that's upside down. I think this is called Gathering Winter's Last Fruit or something like that. And I need to iron this. It got a little wrinkled, but I also did a hem stitch on that, a different kind of hem stitch. And so I plan on doing the exact same thing this year. I still have a piece of this linen. It was a wide quarter, now it is an eighth. It's much smaller than it used to be. In the color Snickerdoodle, which I think has been discontinued. I'll check their website to see if it's there, but the last couple of times I checked, it wasn't there anymore. I actually bought this at the retreat, and I had shared these on Instagram, and somebody messaged me and asked if it had been discontinued, and I told them to reach out to Evertote or Roxy Floss because I don't know. I don't work for them, so I don't know all the ins and outs. And she had also asked me if I could recommend a dupe, which I'm sure there is a dupe somewhere out there, but I don't know all of the linens off the top of my head, so I couldn't really help her, so I'm sorry. But it is a very fun color. It's got some red orangey modeling on there, kind of cinnamony, which makes sense, hence Snickerdoodle. And the 3 flosses that I had used last year, which I also plan to use this time, are Tart, that is the red, kind of a rusty orangey red, Sage, which is a very muted sage green, and Old Lace, which is the dirtiest, grungiest white. I know this is maybe reading more gray, but I think this falls into the category of white. And all 3 of them together on Snickerdoodle look very, very grungy, low contrast. That was what I was going for. I wanted these to look like they had been left out in the rain for many years and had been pooped on by birds and in thunderstorms and sun damage. I wanted them to look kind of, for lack of a better word, I wanted them to look a little bit gross. And I think I accomplished that. They're gross in the nicest way. I promise they're clean. There is no bird poop on here as far as I'm aware. There have never been birds in my apartment, and these pieces have never left my apartment. So I think we're in the clear. But yeah, so whatever this year's pattern is, it's going to be in the same color palette, and it's going to match the other 2 because of that. And I mean, this piece of fabric is shrinking. I suspect I have enough to do maybe next year's as well, but then after next year, I won't be able to make matchy-matchy ones anymore because I don't think you can get Snickerdoodle anymore. Maybe I'll have to try and find that dupe that somebody had asked for. Anyway, so that's all kitted up. And last year I did this exact same thing. I held this up and I made predictions as to what I thought was going to be in here. And I kind of nailed it, okay? I swear I didn't cheat, but I nailed the format of it. I nailed what was how the, you know, the composition was going to be. I don't know, I had a sixth sense and I nailed it. So this year I'm going to do the same thing and we're going to see if lightning can strike twice. I have not opened this, okay? It's still sealed. Open on December 1st only, okay? It's November 26th. I have not seen this. Here are my predictions. I think that this is going to be a Nordic design. I think they have sort of confirmed that actually, but I already thought it, okay? I swear. I think it's going to be some kind of Scandinavian design. Hey, maybe it'll have, you know, some elements of this book in there. Who knows? Who knows? And I think, okay, so this dimensions, okay, Modern Folk Embroidery also does a collaboration with Evertote on Valentine's Day, and it was the exact same size as the Christmas one that they had done. So there's a part of me that thinks that they're gonna stick with that and do it again in this exact same format, but then there's also a part of me that thinks it's gonna be a square. So I think I'm gonna say that my prediction is that this is gonna be a square and it's gonna be sort of symmetrical in quadrants, but that each quarter is gonna have like its own motifs in it. So I think it's gonna be a Scandinavian square in quadrants, but the quadrants aren't like perfectly, you know, matchy-matchy. Those are my guesses. We will see how right or wrong I am. And either way, I'm sure it's gonna be gorgeous because it's Jacob of Modern Folk Embroidery, whose designs I love with all of my heart. So whatever it is, I will be happy. But if it's a square and Scandinavian and in quadrants, I will be very proud of myself. So, as I mentioned, this video has taken me more than 2 weeks to edit and upload, and since recording that, well, holiday countdown has begun, and actually we have just crossed the halfway point. So I figured might as well just show you what we have so far. So, here we are. This is what up to day 13 stitching looks like. So, unfortunately for me, my predictions were pretty much all wrong. It is definitely like a Scandinavian inspired, Nordic inspired design, but it's not in quadrants, it's not a square, and it doesn't have any of those Selbu motifs that I thought it might have. I mean, so far, there's still, I mean, okay, so the whole bottom strip of here we haven't stitched yet, but we do know what the dimensions are, and I think there's about like 1.5 inches more of stitching. So who knows what could be on that last little band on the bottom. Anyway, I think these guys look like headless cheerleaders, cause those are pom-poms, right? Last year there was like it kind of looked like a lion in the middle there, and it wasn't a lion, so I wonder what kind of tricks are being played on us this year. Okay, all jokes aside, I actually am pretty sure I know what these two figures are supposed to represent, and this comes from my very, very small knowledge of Swedish Christmas traditions. I won't say it because, first of all, I don't think I can stand being wrong on the internet twice in one video. My ego just can't handle that. But also, in case I am right, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what these two ladies are supposed to be. But we'll see, we'll see. And yeah, so today's stitching was these flowers and then like few little stitches under that. And yeah, so I haven't, you know, been using this called for floss. This is my conversion. But I do just want to say that I really like the floss in the floss pack this year. I mean, I liked it the other years too, but this year I feel like it's especially cohesive. I don't know. There's a lot of color families going on, and the linen is very like fresh and bright. So I'm also really enjoying watching other people stitch it and seeing what the called for colors are producing. But I also still really like my conversion. Okay, but that is all that I'm gonna say about Holiday Countdown. I'm very much looking forward to it. I have big plans for December 1st. Ooh, big plans. So now I want to talk a moment about the next few weeks and months and my Flosstube. So in my last video, I apologized for having been away for 2 months, and I expressed, you know, my sadness for not being able to like keep up with everything. And here I am in the exact same situation another 2-3 months later. So not much has changed in my own personal behaviors. And people were very kind in the comments, and overwhelmingly people has just said to me, just post videos when you feel like it. And that is kind of what I have been doing when I have time in the mental space, and a lot of work goes into like setting all of this up, but especially the editing afterwards. So it's not always a project that I want to just like whip out and do on a whim. Like I feel like I have to think about it for a week or two before it actually ends up happening. Anyway, so that's kind of the reason why I haven't been posting as frequently, but in my heart, I really want to be that girl who posts once every 2 weeks. So that's a goal that I'm just going to put out into the universe. We will see if it actually happens. I have to, you know, remind myself that this is a hobby. And I have a job and a career and a social life that I also, you know, am happy to upkeep. I could probably do a better job of posting things in the mail in a more prompt way. Oh no, where did it go? This is a little reminder of that. Anyways, I do have a couple of ideas for videos that I would really like to have up before the end of this year. So first of all, I would like to do a kit parade. I did a kit parade last year. It was a lot of fun. I have a bunch of things kitted up now that I've never actually shown. You're not gonna see a whip parade from me. I mean, I have a joke, you know, 1 project whip parade. I have 2 knitting whips and 1 cross stitch whip right now, and I'm very okay with that, and I wouldn't want it to be much bigger than that. But I have absolutely no problem kitting things up and just dreaming about the day that I actually get to work on them. And I feel like that's kind of the equivalent to a whip parade that I would be able to do, and it doesn't actually involve as much like pre-planning as what I've just done here. So I would really like to do that. I think it's a lot of fun. And the other thing that I would really like to have up this year is my first installment in my 52 Weeks of Socks knitting series. If you skipped the knitting portion of this video, I plan on making a like knitting only video or 2, and I'm a little bit worried about it because I feel like people are gonna see that and be like, oh, she's a knitting account now, unsubscribe. You can just skip that video if you don't want to watch it. But I have like been working on it all year long, and I'm almost done the first quarter, and it's gonna be a mammoth of a project to edit all of that footage. I think that's gonna be at least a 2-parter because I feel like I have like a good 30 minutes of footage per pair of socks, and it's 13 pairs of socks. So you can do the math. I'm definitely gonna try to slim that down as much as possible, but I think a 1 video for 13 patterns is gonna be just too much. So I think it's gonna be 2 parts for the first quarter, which means it'll be an 8-part series that probably comes out over the course of 4 years because it took me about a year to get through the first quarter. Anyway, so I did want to just mention that that is hopefully, knock on wood, gonna be coming out soon. I would really like for that to come out before the end of the year, but I don't want to make any promises because I am learning from my past behaviors that I can't commit to being consistent with this hobby. Basically, I have a hobby which is cross stitching, I have a hobby which is knitting, and then I have a hobby which is the whole social media thing, and they all take up some time and some energy, and I never want it to feel like work, so I'm sort of just allowing myself to do it when it feels right. So that's also in my plans. In the new year, I would really like to do a finish parade. I did that last year as well, a 2024 finish parade. I I feel a little disappointed in myself because I'm not going to have nearly as many finishes this year for cross stitch as I did last year, because last year I was just cross stitching, I wasn't YouTubing, and I was not knitting. So I stitched probably too much last year. Like I think it was very impressive looking back and being like, wow, I did a lot, but it was a little bit like I didn't go to bed on time every night. Like I didn't always, do my dishes. So like I was definitely not prioritizing some things in my life that I probably should have. Anyways, not that that changed this year, because here I am still spending time doing my crafts and my social media. But yeah, so I plan on doing a finished parade. Won't be as epic as last year's, I guess, but I think it'll still be pretty good. I don't know. And then I also want to do, again, a dedicated knitting video where I will show everything that I knit this year. And that's a pretty popular kind of video that happens around January in the like knitting YouTube space, where people share everything they knit in the previous year. So I guess I'll do that too. I would prefer to have those in separate videos because I just know that the Venn diagram of knitters and stitchers does overlap, but it's not a perfect circle, so you're free to watch one, both, or neither of those videos. And I really I wanted my next video to be a dedicated video on finishing the smalls from this book, and we are going to get to the giveaway in just a second. I really wanted to do that, but again, I just didn't have time. But I would really like to do that video. I have stitched 4 of the 5 smalls, so I have them here to show you. These are 4 of the smalls from this book. The only one I didn't stitch, and that was just because there wasn't enough space on this piece of linen, is the mattress down here. And I would really like to stitch that too. I'll just have to find a different linen so it won't match perfectly, but it should be fine. So why not? Let's just add that. And with that, it is time for the giveaway. So I haven't actually done the giveaway yet. I've never done a giveaway, but I'm going to cut to me announcing the winner of this amazing, amazing book. Okay, so I'm going full Pam and Steph here and filming a screen on my phone to insert into a video. I've never done this before. I'm on a website called commonpicker.com that has lots of pop-ups, but it looks to be free. And there's my video URL. And I can't seem to find a way to punch in the word treasure, but I'm just gonna pick a random comment, and if it's one of the comments that doesn't have the word treasure in, I'll just keep picking random comments until I get a treasure comment. But I think most of the comments had that word. Anyways, so I have to solve a math question. I thought about this beforehand because I didn't want to be embarrassed. It is 35. 5 times 7 is 35. Okay, get comments. What? Okay, I just figured out a way to add a filter word, so treasure. Okay, no, that's it. And now, so there are 160 comments with that. So 4 plus 7, my hopefully last math question, is 11. Get YouTube comments. Oh, do I have to do this? Oh, okay. Cheryl Randleman 2195. Cheryl, congratulations. You have won the raffle. Okay. Thank you. Okay, sorry, I'm all flustered now. Please email me at cardimanpins@gmail.com. I will have it on screen right now. Cheryl Randleman 2195, you are the winner. Congratulations. Thank you for your comment, and I will figure out how to get the chart to you. Thank you. So I have the sampler here. I talked about her a lot in the last video, so I won't repeat myself, but I thought I'd bring her out just in case. And now my little beagle has a blanket. So as I'm filming this, I don't actually know who won, but whoever the winner was, congratulations, and I look forward to receiving an email from you so I can get this in the mail to you. There is a postal strike happening right now, so we'll talk and we'll figure out what the best solution is. But yes, I'm very excited for whoever won to receive this wonderful book, which has one of my favorite samplers of all time in it. Okay, so with that, I am done blabbing and I am ready to put all of this stuff away and get back to crafting. Actually, I need to practice cello because I have work tomorrow. I have to do big girl responsible things now. Unfortunately, I am nowhere near retirement age, so it's okay. I'll be fine. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed it. I would like to post regularly, but I make no promises. But hey, it'll be a fun time whenever I am here, right? Okay, well, I wish you all the best and happy upcoming holiday season to everybody. Bye-bye.